To all those affected, I want to say, we are deeply sorry. We're sorry. We're sorry. Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah.
If you're all wondering why I play more with drugs these days than I do video games, well, just take a look at the current state of the industry right now. Can you blame me?
I like getting high. I'm a crackhead.
Bunk acid tabs are more reliable than Sony, Microsoft, or EA. The only people you can actually rely on for good ports apparently is Capcom. Talk about a full 180. And the reason behind that is because they're actually dedicated to the platform. Everyone else just wants to jump on board, make their money, and sell people products that aren't polished because they get away with it on console a lot. Why do you think GT7 came out the way it did? Why do you think Forspoken came out the way it did? Why do you think Redfall's about to launch tomorrow with what is quite possibly one of the worst ports I have ever seen?
Tenga, I'm f***ing warning you. We are here to talk about you killing yourself with drugs, not my console exclusives.
They just can't wait to push out their content and fix it later, if they ever get to it at all. Nintendo DS shovelware is more polished than what the AAA industry is pushing out. And to think when it was announced that the price hike was going to happen and games would be $70, what were we told by companies like EA and Sony? We were told the quality was gonna go up, it would help the games and better our experience. But anybody with a sober or inebriated brain can obviously see it's had the complete opposite effect. Game quality has plummeted, and it's completely ruined the next-gen experience for a lot of folks. The entire industry has been following this trend of better to ask for forgiveness than permission first. And it's funny because I actually have it all in chronological order for you to see. Look. From CD Projekt Red apologizing after releasing a buggy game, to Naughty Dog, to Square Enix, and now down to EA. All of them read out nearly identical.
A fine addition to my collection.
What's even crazier to me is the attitude gamers have. If any of them drove a brand new car out of a dealership and the tires fell off driving out of the dealership, you think any of them would be okay with that? No, of course not, but when it comes to video games, they're willing to cuck for the industry. Was that? Oh, you promise you'll fix it later? Well, okay. This isn't a trend I've noticed from most of the industry and complain about.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
What do you mean you've seen this? It's brand new.
And just like with Forspoken, just like the Last of Us PC port, when it comes to Jedi Survivor, the reviews simply do not reflect how unplayable this product is, and that is not okay. But luckily for you, you got Daddy Frit. I never get review codes, because the industry avoids me like the quartering is avoiding having to box review Tech USA. Just always know you can rely on Daddy Frit because I don't give a shit. I did what I had to do. I signed up for EA Play, which I'm about to cancel actually, before I upload this video, and that is how I got my hands on Jedi Survivor. The fact EA actually thought I was gonna give them full price for this is insane. But if you want a way to try it out, to see for yourself, this is what I recommend. Go play it on EA Play, and then unsub from the service, cause fuck them.
We are the pirates, so don't do anything. We just stay at home and lie around.
And so, right off the bat, we're given the same exact shader compilation screen a lot of AAA games have been giving us recently, which I already knew was a bad sign. And the minute I started the game, within the cutscenes themselves, there were stutters and frame drops. Absolutely unbelievable. I don't think even PUBG in 2017 ran this bad. So yeah, immersion is broken almost immediately. First impressions are, I want to shut the game off, but I said to myself, I gotta do this for science. I gotta do this for my subscribers. So I endured yet another 2 hours. And when I saw all 10 gigs of my VRAM was in usage, yet my GPU wasn't even utilizing its full power, I thought to myself, you know, maybe there's just some things science shouldn't touch. When your VRAM usage is
Too damn high.
and your frame rates are that low, you're not even going to be able to have have fun experimenting with settings because you know none of it is gonna make a goddamn difference. And yet, I tried anyway. I changed just about every setting you could think of, with the difference to visuals and performance being minuscule. Oh yeah, and another thing, I don't know why, but I think my native resolution for this game is broken. Not to mention there is no DLSS for this game, so instead you're stuck with some of the worst upscaling methods. In my case, all I had to really use was AMD Fidelity FX Super Resolution 2. And when I set that to quality, for some reason, all of a sudden my game finally looked like it was actually at a native 1440p. Yet when I disable it and opt for actual native resolution, it's a blurry mess. So I experimented by going back to native resolution with AA turned up all the way, and it was still a blurry mess. So if you're going to play it, you have to play it upscaled, otherwise it's hideous. I don't know what it's like at native 4K, but at native 1440p, it looks atrocious. Then I'm reminded this game was created in less than 3 years. I don't think some people can really wrap their heads around how crazy that is. Being pumped out in 3 years is probably the reason why a lot of these graphics options are broken and downright useless. I'm talking Forspoken levels of horrendous. And much like Forspoken, performance aside, controls are wonky. It doesn't help that there's a lot of stutter and frame drops in this game. Just about any action will cause your frame rate to tank. Swing your lightsaber, you're down 17 FPS. Enemy shoots at you, you deflect the blast, slideshow commences. It's practically unplayable. There isn't many workarounds to get this game to run the way you want it to. However, there is a mod in development to implement DLSS 3, so if you're curious to see how much of an improvement that'll make in your game, be on the lookout for when that mod is available. And while it doesn't really mean much to the overall port, I'll give Respawn credit for their accessibility options. It's pretty impressive, but like 99% of the people who bought this game, I'm more interested in my graphic settings, which are basically useless. Because of the way this game compiles its shaders, you're never going to have a consistent experience. Go ahead and try, boot it up as many times as possible. You're gonna get the same experience no matter what. I find that it makes combat near impossible, and so I played as much of it as I possibly could until I reached the point where I knew the experience was not going to get any better. And so I've chosen to put it down for good and cancel my EA subscription. Because much like with my drugs, I have high standards for my games. And what's funny is I've never had a drug dealer have to apologize to me for anything, while just about every single big AAA publisher has had to apologize to me for the past like 3 years now.
We are aware that the Star Wars Jedi Survivor isn't performing to our standards for a percentage of our PC players, in particular those with high-end machines or certain specific configurations. For example, players using cutting-edge multi-threaded chipsets designed for Windows 11 were encountering problems on Windows 10, or high-end GPUs coupled with lower-performing CPUs also saw unexpected frame loss. Rest assured, we're working to address these cases quickly. While there's no single comprehensive solution for PC performance, the team has been working on fixes we believe will improve performance across a spectrum of configurations. We are committed to fixing these issues as soon as possible, but each patch requires significant testing to ensure we don't introduce new problems. Thanks for understanding, and apologies to any of our players experiencing these issues. We will continue to monitor performance across all platforms and share update timing as soon as it is available. The Star Wars Jedi team.
I'm sorry of anything I do.
I don't know if I can trust you.
You can't.
You know, I find it funny that they're solely apologizing to PC gamers. Are you forgetting the console port is trash? The only way to legitimately play the console version of this game is to cap it at 30 FPS. On top of that, these are all pre-existing issues that you knew about months before launch. I'm assuming this game needed at least another 2 years in the oven. And speaking of console ports, we can finally bring up Digital Foundry.
Now this is more like it. Star Wars Jedi Survivor on PS5 isn't perfect, but has far fewer technical problems than PC, and Respawn has pushed hard here to take visuals to the next level.
For the PS5 version of the game, my colleague Tom Morgan counted results roughly in the ranges on screen for the 2 modes on offer.
What? What the fuck?
Areas with water bodies have frame rates lurch well into the 20 FPS region, and even the teens. And yes, screen tearing flares up in concert. It's pretty hard to ignore, but again, it flies in the face of the generally solid performance elsewhere at 30 FPS.
Laughable, man. I would have you in the ass Saturday. I'll you in the ass next Wednesday instead. Woo!
Oh yeah, indeed, they definitely pushed the PS5 to take those visuals to the next level, because native resolutions for this game on the PS5 can drop down to 648p and can reach frame rates as low as 17 FPS. Now, I wouldn't say this is more like it, because Digital Foundry's solution is to lock the game to 30 FPS, and I would definitely not call that it. I know Digital Foundry has a lower frame rate tolerance than me, but goddamn, the PS5 is reaching PS3 resolutions and still cannot reach a perfectly locked 60. Frame rate is all over the place. This is not more like it. This is a compromise, one that shouldn't have to be made for a game like this. This isn't what I would call cutting edge visuals. It's a bit nicer looking than the previous entry, but it still looks like it could run on a PS4 and an Xbox One. How the game runs on the PS5 right now is how it should be running on last-gen consoles. This is a disgrace. This is not it. Come on, Digital Foundry. Y'all cap for your motion blur.
There's a one-off dropped frame sometimes, but we're mostly looking at a pretty decent 30 FPS update here.
You cap for 30 FPS. I can't with you anymore. Respawn hasn't pushed hard for anything. This is an undercooked and unfinished product, with constant pop-ins on the PS5 and certain enemies just upright disappearing. I do not recommend anybody have to cap their game at 30 FPS just to be able to somewhat play it. The fact that they have to call it a pretty decent 30 FPS and then praise having to put motion blur on that 30 FPS. Oh my god, I don't know. Maybe it's just the elitist in me. But dear God, this is not it. I mean, for Christ's sake, they consider a drop from 30 to 23 FPS to be minor and a slight inconvenience when it actually happens quite frequently in the gameplay I've been seeing, especially around particle effects. I can't help but cringe every single time Digital Foundry says a smooth 30 FPS. There's no such thing to my eyes, and even then you can't classify this as a smooth 30 FPS. The drops are horrendous. It's bad enough it's coming from Digital Foundry, but it's also the same type of shit we heard from Jason Schreier.
Here is a stunning stat. With the launch of Jedi Survivor tomorrow, Respawn Entertainment will have released 4 major PC console games plus 1 VR game and some mobile stuff since Rocksteady Studios released anything.
Yeah, and it only runs like shit. How amazing.
It's incredible how many people are sharing their opinions on the performance of a game they haven't played yet, with someone who's been playing it for a week and has said several times that it runs fine.
You are fake news.
Now keep in mind, this is coming from the guy that withheld a lot of the Activision corruption information. And he's supposed to be the most reliable journalist with the most amount of integrity. Yet before most people got to play this game, he was telling them it runs fine. Yeah, that's bullshit, Jason, and you know it. Even people who say they can't tell the difference between 60 and 30 FPS notice how shit it runs. There's no possible way you played this for a week and never once saw how bad it was. Yeah, right. There's no way anybody playing this enjoys the moments where the frame rate hiccups and they're down to 17 FPS and reaching PS3 resolutions. Stop it. When a gaming journalist considers performance like this fine, we've got a big problem on our hands. Now you legitimately can't trust none of them. It's why people like me don't get review codes. We're not like Jason Schreier. We don't damage control this shit, and we don't lie to people before the release of a game. This now makes like the 6th AAA game to release broken on PC at this year alone. Signed, one reviewer.
When making a game for a console, you're making it for one set of drivers and hardware. When making a game for PC, you're making it like 900 plus possible combinations. I promise you, it's not laziness. It's just really difficult.
90% of the time, I have no idea what the f I'm talking about.
Oh, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Stop. Just stop it. This game was developed in under 3 years. That is not enough time. It was clearly rushed out the door. Yes, PC requires more optimization and more fine-tuning, but that's not the reason this port is trash. Otherwise, both console versions wouldn't be so shit. It's a difficult task, but it's not an impossible one, clearly, because we've seen amazing ports. Resident Evil 4, Dead Space Remake, even Atomic Heart was a good port. What about Returnal? Developers know what they're supposed to be doing and how to do it. How this post got 30,000 likes is beyond me. This is some hardcore damage control. I mean, just take a look at some of these replies.
A lot of people here are repeating the same chicken or egg dribble. Don't release it then. That's exactly how you fix the issues. By releasing on a large user base and addressing all the strange setups that people own that cause issues, not releasing helps no one. People are too upset to understand this part, and I get it. The game can be running smooth on 600 computers internally, but you just don't know for sure until it's out. Now 2% of a 50K people means you're seeing something you didn't anticipate and you're stuck making patches.
I highly encourage both of you to shut the f up because you have no idea what the hell you're talking about. Please, stop. You're polluting actual tech discourse. This is the type of shit you hear console peasants spew out all the time, like they know what they're saying. You do not release broken games to be purchased, okay? I shouldn't have to tell you this. If you want to release a beta for people to test out, okay, yeah, sure. But to fully release a game broken so you can figure out how to fix it? Noticeable issues before launch have to be fixed before launch. People are paying you full price. Why are all these console peasants so on board with defending this shit? You can try your best to throw out every terrible excuse, but it's not gonna work. We know good PC ports exist, and we know that overall Jedi Survivor is just trash on all platforms. And yet knowing that, the console peasants still wanted a console war over who had the less shitty port. Tech analysis damage controlling, journalists damage controlling, console peasants obviously damage controlling. If there's anyone I can blame my drug addictions on, it's the gaming industry. And it's all of you jackasses I respond to. You did this to me. So somebody's got to try to make me feel better by, I don't know, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing if you so choose to. That being said, I'll see you in the next one.
Fritongo sucks ass.